There are three special kinds of relationships that you can track in ResultsPlus: loose affiliations, structured relationships, and persons to notify in the case of tribute gifts. A loose affiliation is a casual, social, or familial connection between constituents. You might want to note that two constituents are siblings or tennis partners. This might be useful to know at some point, especially if one of them becomes a major donor. A structured relationship is more binding. In structured relationships, there is a formal hierarchy. For example, you may have a constituent that is an employer and several employee constituents. When you send mailings, you'd like to be able to send one mailing to the employer, a mailing only to select employees, or a mailing to all of the employees. You may have a constituent record representing a family, and other constituent records representing members of the family. Sometimes family members act individually, and sometimes they act as a family unit. You'd like to be able to show when a gift from the family was influenced by a particular family member. Finally, gifts given in memory of or in honor of someone are called tribute gifts. When you process tribute gifts, you're often in a position to notify the next of kin or another representative. These three types of relationships, loose affiliations, structured relationships, and persons to notify for tribute gifts, are tracked in the same area of ResultsPlus, relationships. We'll talk about loose affiliations first. For the purposes of this tutorial, we'll identify an imaginary constituent named Jean Chang. Jean is a close friend of James Will, another constituent in our database. They are both doctors and went to medical school together. We want to show this relationship as a loose affiliation. We'll start by opening Jean Chang's constituent record. Then we'll click Edit Relationships and click the Add New Relationship button. Now we'll look up James Will. On the Relationship Details screen, we'll choose Loose Affiliation. The fields on this screen vary, depending on what kind of relationship you're defining. In the first field, we'll define Jean's relationship to James. Then, in the next field, we'll describe James' relationship to Jean. The contents of the first remarks field will be stored in Jean's record. The contents of the second remarks field will be stored in James' record. We'll fill both fields in. Now we see an entry in Jean's relationships list for James, including a description of the relationship and remarks. Note that the value in the type column is loose affiliation. There will be a corresponding entry in James' relationship records, showing the same information, but with respect to Jean. Loose affiliations don't change anything or affect how you handle mailings or process gifts. They're just nice to know. Structured relationships are a little different because they're based on hierarchies. Let's say we have a company named Caldwell Industries. Caldwell is a good company. It recognizes the value of our organization and makes sizable donations. There are several Caldwell Industries employees who are also constituents. One of them is the CFO of Caldwell, Harry Smith, a donor and mover and shaker. Then there's Charlotte Feigenbaum, Wilson Walgren, and Lester Stiles, all donors. We want to track the relationship between Caldwell and its employees as a structured relationship. We'll start by opening Caldwell Industries' constituent record. Then we'll click Edit Relationships and click the Add New Relationship button. First, we'll add the relationship with Harry Smith, Caldwell's CFO. On the Relationship Details screen, we'll keep the selection of Structured Relationship. Then we'll define the roles that both Caldwell and Harry Smith play. We'll start with Caldwell Industries. We'll click the drop-down arrow and select Corporation. Then we'll identify how Harry is related to Caldwell. Please note, this is a hierarchical relationship. For that reason, we have to define it from the top down, with Caldwell Industries on top. In ResultsPlus, when you define structured relationships, you always start with the higher level entity. Now we have three options across the bottom of the Relationship Details screen. Each of them refers to Harry, the related constituent. Let's take a closer look. The first option reads, "This related record can make donations based on the relationship." If you select this option, you will be able to record gifts from Caldwell Industries as having been influenced by Harry. This can be very helpful information to retain. The second option reads, "Exclude this related record when mailings are based on the relationship." If you select this option, you'll be able to exclude Harry as CFO when you send an expanded mailing that includes Caldwell Industries. The third option allows you to choose from three addresses. If you select Use Constituent's Primary Address, when you send an expanded mailing that includes Harry, it will be sent to the Caldwell Industries address. If you select Use Related Records Primary Address, when you send an expanded mailing that includes Harry, it will be sent to his primary address, which may or may not be his business address. If you select Other, then click OK, ResultsPlus will display a list of Harry's addresses, so you can choose the one to use in an expanded mailing. Armed with this knowledge, we'll make our selections and click OK. Harry's record now appears in Caldwell's list. Note that the value in the Type column is structured. We can now add employees Charlotte Feigenbaum, Wilson Walgren, and Lester Stiles in the same way. We'll end up with a list that looks something like this. Now, when we look up Caldwell Industries, we'll see all the related constituents. Persons to notify is the third type of relationship. Let's say we have a constituent in our database who has been dead for several years. His name is Charles Bastian. We know he's gone because tribute and memory are selected on the General Information tab corresponding to his constituent record. When we receive gifts in memory of Mr. Bastian, we want to send a tribute notification to his son John, who is another constituent of ours. We'll start by opening Mr. Bastian's constituent record. Then we'll click Edit Relationships. Because Mr. Bastian's constituent record has the tribute flag set on the General Information tab, there's a special area on the bottom of his Relationships tab for notifications. In ResultsPlus, we refer to people to whom we send tribute notifications as notificants. To add Charles Bastian's son, John, as a notificant, we click the Add Notificant button. Then we look up John's constituent record. On the Notificant Details screen, we complete the information describing the relationship between Charles Bastian and his son John. We'll start by recording that Charles Bastian was John Bastian's father. Then we'll add remarks and select the letter we'll use when sending tribute notifications. Now we'll see the notificant entry for John Bastian in the list at the bottom of the screen. To summarize, tracking these relationships is optional, but can be very helpful. When you track loose affiliations, you store one more piece of information about a constituent that might be important in the future. When you track structured relationships, you can expand mailings, reduce mailings, and show influenced gifts. Finally, identifying persons to notify, or notificants, enables you to send meaningful and automated tribute notifications. This completes the tutorial on tracking relationships between constituents.